Hello, welcome to Module 5 of Drum Ambition. This module is a series of 10 videos, and we're going to be taking the beats that we've learned in the first 4 modules, and we're going to be adding some really cool embellishments just to give you some new musical options. And we're also going to be looking at some new styles, new beats and styles that I think it's really important that every beginner drummer should have a good working understanding of. So we'll get straight into lesson 1. In lesson 1, we're talking about the hi-hat upbeat. Now, as a reminder, when we're talking about upbeats, we're talking about essentially playing the ands. So I'll emphasize this on the sticks for you, and I'll count out loud a couple of bars. It would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And playing the hi-hat on the ands is going to seem a little strange at first because just about everything we've done so far, we've played on every 8th note or every 16th note. So we have a warm-up exercise here. You can see it on the screen in front of you. We're playing the bass drum on the quarter notes and we're playing the hi-hat on every and. So let's just play a couple of bars just to get you into the swing of this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now right there, it's a good idea to just take a pause and practice that very, very slowly. Remember to count out loud because, as I said a moment ago, we're used to playing every 8th note or every 16th note. So to play upbeat is a completely new feel and it will take a little bit of getting used to. But if you're ready to move on, let's look at number 1. Now, first thing to recognize here is we've added the snare drum on the 2 and 4. So if we were to take our hi-hat upbeats and our snare drum and just play 2 bars, it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now we'll add the bass drum, as you can see, is going to be on the 1 and the 3. We're adding the bass drum on the 1 and 3. So if we put that together, play 2 nice slow bars, it will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So again, good idea to pause there because this is a lot more trickier than it looks. Your brain is desperately going to want to coordinate your hands and feet together all the time. It just doesn't happen all the time in these exercises. So take a pause, practice that. It's also a good idea to print off the PDF, the sheet music that comes with this, and just read it, count it, play it really, really slow. But I'm going to move on and do 4 bars of this at 70 beats per minute. And as per the last module, I'm not going to be counting over the metronome. I'll count when I'm playing the demonstration, but when I'm running the metronome, I'll just let you listen. Here we go, 4 bars. 2, 3, 4. So, have a go at that. Again, nice and slowly, but these are a lot of fun to play. Towards the end of the video, I'll demonstrate what they sound like a little bit faster. But for now, we're going to move on to the next example, number 2. Now, as you can see, number 2 is very similar to the introduction exercise in respect that the bass drum is on every quarter note. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it's important that you understand that what we do with the hands in all 5 of these exercises and the audio files that you'll hear later, the hand pattern really doesn't change. You're playing every upbeat on the right hand and you're playing the snare drum on the left hand on the 2 and 4. So it's really only the bass drum that's changing in these exercises. So if I play the bass drum on all 4 quarter notes, play 2 bars nice and slowly for you, it will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So again, a good thing would be to pause the video, practice that nice and slowly. Make sure you're counting out loud. But I'm going to go on and demonstrate this at 70 for you. 2, 3, 4. Moving on to number 3, this is an interesting one because for the first time we have a bass drum on one of the ands. You can see it there. It's on the and of the 2. So if we have a bass drum on the 1, 2, 3 or 4, the bass drum is played on its own since the hi-hat is playing the upbeats. But if we have a bass drum on an and, you will be playing your right hand and your right foot together. So it's very, very important to take this super, super slow. I'm going to play this even slower than I did the last example. 2 bars. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Here comes our metronome. 70 beats per minute. 2, 3, 4. So moving on to number 4, you can now see that the bass drum is on the 1, the and of the 1, and the 3, and the and of the 3. I love this beat, but remember, if you're playing a bass drum on an and, that will coincide with a right hand on the hi-hat at the same time. So let's do a nice slow example for you, 2 bars of time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you may even find it necessary, in fact I'm sure you will, to play even slower than that. Again, it doesn't matter how slow we approach these at first. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, for example. But I'm going to go in and play a 4 bars with a metronome at 70 beats per minute. 2, 3, 4. And then finally, moving on to number 5, we have the bass drum on the 1, the 3, the and of the 3, and right at the end of the bar there, the and of the 4 as well. Now, that bass drum on the and of the 4 presents us with a little bit of a challenge. Remember that we're going straight into the next bar, so you'll be playing and 1 on the bass drum. Watch out for that. That's the first time this happens on this particular exercise. I'll play 2 bars of time, nice and slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Here comes our metronome. 2, 3, 4. That's a fun one, nice little challenging one at the end there for you, as always. So I mentioned earlier in the video that it's fun to play these faster. Now, of course, as you know by now, that takes a lot of practice to get to that point, but I wanted to demonstrate one a little faster. Let's go back to number 3. And I don't think we even need a metronome with this. I just wanted you to get some context. Here we go. And, you know, these groove at higher tempos, there's no doubt about it. And when we talk about grooving at a higher tempo, what does that even mean? It just means something is flowing a little faster. Sometimes certain beats, when they're played slow, they seem like they drag, like they're awkward to play slow. And you'll soon start to feel when something's dragging or when something's grooving. But certainly these upbeats, they're very good at higher tempos, but it just depends on the song, as always. You know, it could be any tempo, so we need to be able to play them slow or fast. One last thing to consider, in the last module we talked about conceptualization. So you could take your ride cymbal and play all of these examples on the ride. That's always a good exercise to do because we do use the ride cymbal a lot. And remember that when you're playing crossed on the hi-hat like this and you're playing open on the ride, so cross sticking or open sticking like this, you know, that's a different balance. So it's very important to understand, and we talked about this in the last module also, when you're playing open as opposed to crossed, be careful not to speed up here. Drummers tend to speed up when they're playing on the ride cymbal. That can happen. So a way to counterbalance that, of course, is, as you know by now, counting out loud and playing nice and slow. So, as always, we have 10 audio files that go with this lesson. We've decided to up the tempo to 80 beats per minute on these audio files because, as I mentioned just a moment ago, they just groove better at that speed. They're always a little bit more difficult, as you know. We've added some 16th note bass drum just to make things a little bit more complex and challenging, but also a lot of fun when you get them down. So whatever you do, don't forget the audio files. There's so much more value in those and so much more things that you can do. If you have any need for me, I'm here to help you. Support@drumambition.com. As always, have fun with these exercises. Thanks for watching.